Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel, The Unraveling. We're sinking our teeth into one of the oldest and most universally recognized symbols across humanity, the serpent and the dragon. But we're not just looking at the surface meanings. We're going to delve into the esoteric knowledge that sees these creatures as much more than just animals or monsters. Is it a sign of divine wisdom, healing, and spiritual ascent? Or is it a culture of malice, temptation, and the forces that bind us, even connected to the rise of the Antichrist and certain interpretations of the Old Testament's evil God? The surprising answer when we look beneath the surface is it's both. Let's uncoil the hidden truths behind this captivating symbol. Part 1. The serpent as wisdom, healing, and spiritual power. Let's start with the more profound and often hidden aspects of the serpent symbolism. For thousands of years, especially in esoteric traditions, the serpent wasn't even seen as evil, but as a potent symbol of transformative power and inner awakening. Ancient Egypt and alchemy. Beyond the Urus of pharaohs, the serpent in Egypt thought and later in alchemy represent a primal, transformative energy. The Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, is a classical alchemical symbol representing cyclical renewal, the unity of all things, and the endless process of transformation. It's the great work itself, constantly purifying and perfecting.
Periods. This was a period of time that gave rise to Neoplatonism, the Western magical tradition, astrology, even ultimately Lurianic Kabbalah would be born along the banks of the Nile. But Egypt would also give us that greatest of the occult sciences, alchemy. From Egypt, our earliest alchemical manuals appear in the form of the Leiden and Stockholm papyri, along with famous figures and practices like those of Maria Hebrea and Cleopatra, the alchemist. But the greatest, no doubt, the greatest exemplar of Egyptian alchemy would be Zosimus of Panopolis, whose surviving works gracefully and mysteriously combine Egyptian priestly, religious, and craft secrets, Hermetic and Gnostic philosophy, along with arcane Jewish lore into a sophisticated system of chemical techniques on the one hand, but also spiritual transformation on the other, theurgy in fact. While basically unknown in the European medieval and early modern alchemical traditions, Zosimus's work provides us a profound insight into the complexities at work.
We're going to get you out. Redemption, talk back to me. Now, are you there? So, Egypt is not the original name. The original name is Mizraim. Mizraim, it means the house of bondage. You're going to come into the house of bondage again in ships. Find me a people that ever went into bondage and was sold and still there. Y'all didn't catch that part. Catch what I said. Still there. Because the Bible says no man gonna buy you. No man gonna redeem you. Nobody gonna get you out. Because
sought, uncovered, and earned. Nothing illustrates this truth more profoundly than the sacred formula of vitriol, a word that is not merely spoken, but contemplated, meditated upon, and ultimately lived. Vitriol is an acrostic, its letters forming a riddle written in the sacred tongue of the alchemists. Inscribed within ancient treatises, etched into the walls of secret lodges, chambers of reflection, and hidden within the folds of medieval manuscripts, it stands as a silent guide, a signpost pointing to the path of inner transformation. Visita interiora terrae rectificando invenies occultum lapidem. Visit the interior of the earth, and by rectifying, you will discover the hidden stone. At first glance, this phrase seems to speak of a physical journey, perhaps a descent into the earth, a mining of minerals, a search for gold. But the wise know that in alchemy, all things external are but reflections of the internal. The earth that must be entered is not of soil and stone.
The dragon is considered as evil and the devil, and the snake is considered as the deceiver. in the Orient and in the Asian world is a totally different thing. The snake have also one kind of ability which is unique in the world of the animal.
Healing and Kundalini. While we know the rod of Asclepius for medicine in Eastern esoteric traditions, particularly Kundalini yoga, the serpent is the central metaphor for a potent spiritual energy coiled at the base of the spine. When awakened, this Kundalini serpent uncoils and ascends through the chakras, leading to spiritual enlightenment, higher consciousness, and even divine union. It's the very life force and consciousness within us.
It's a part. Kundalini is that which is in this part. The energy which is in your body. When it manifests in all its glory, you say it's Kundalini. Without the Kundalini awakening, you cannot experience meditation. You cannot have enthusiasm in that. You cannot experience a heightened state of bliss or unconditional love. But in the ancient days, they described it in the language of that day. Those days, the language was flowers. People were so fascinated about flowers, and a child is very fascinated about flowers. Someone who is very calm and quiet, peaceful and centered, they honor the nature. They're fascinated by nature. And the subtle and beautiful feeling when it wakes up within you, there is a normal tendency to relate that to flowers. So they said there are these many chakras with so many petal flowers there, and serpent is arising, going. There is no serpent inside, by the way. It's just the energy. Why this is serpent? In the earth is considered to be standing on the serpent, Adishesha. Here, serpent is not, there is not a real serpent down below there, where it's hanging below the earth. Serpent means the centrifugal and centripetal force. And the earth is going round the sun and spinning on its axis as well. This is the centripetal and centrifugal force. To depict that, ancient people said the earth is standing on the serpent. See, snake doesn't go straight like this. It could have just gone like this. But no, it curves, expressing the centripetal and centripetal forces. So the movement of energy in a snake is not straight. It is circular. It's spherical. And that's why the movement within us also is very delicate movement of energy from base of the spine to the top of the head. Even your
Gnostic and primordial knowledge. In some Gnostic traditions, the serpent in the Garden of Eden is not seen as evil, but as a benevolent bringer of knowledge. The serpent is often called Natash, which is the liberator who offers Adam and Eve gnosis, divine and direct knowledge, that frees them from the ignorant demiurge or false god who is sought to keep them enslaved.
Yet dense with something more than life, an invisible tension woven into the roots and branches. At its heart stand two trees, one offering life without end, the other something far more dangerous, awareness. The serpent doesn't slither in as an agent of chaos, but as a whisper of possibility. Not a deceiver, but a catalyst. What if it wasn't the bringer of ruin, but the one who dared to offer humanity its first true choice? Not between good and evil, but between comfort in ignorance and the sharp, unrelenting clarity of knowledge. Across time, the serpent coils itself around the foundations of countless cultures. In Sumer, it guards sacred secrets. In Greece, it becomes a symbol of healing and rebirth, entwined on the staff of Asclepius. In Gnostic texts, it's no longer the villain, but the voice of a higher truth, challenging the very authority that branded it as evil. This isn't just about Eden, it's about how stories are shaped, how symbols are twisted, and how those who control knowledge often decide who wears the mask of the monster. Perhaps the serpent's true sin wasn't in offering the fruit, but in revealing that wisdom was never forbidden, only feared.
Not what the text says. The word Nahash in Hebrew doesn't just mean serpent. It also carries connotations of brightness and divination, which is kind of weird, right? We have a being who is described as a serpent, but also possibly a shining one or a supernatural entity. And what does he do?
Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, was a false ruler, a jailer. The Gnostics were willing to call out what others feared to say out loud. Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, was a false ruler, a jailer, and the ultimate deceiver. They weren't afraid to ask the dangerous questions, the ones that have echoed through the centuries. If Yahweh is the demiurge, then what else in the Bible is built on lies? What truths are still hidden behind the veil? The Gnostics didn't just challenge the beliefs of their time, they turned them upside down. They looked at the Old Testament's God, Yahweh, and saw something profoundly disturbing. To them, this wasn't the all-loving, all-knowing creator of the universe. No, this was the demiurge, a being who built a prison and called it creation. And guess what? You're living in it. Think about it. Why would an all-powerful, benevolent God create a world riddled with pain, injustice, and death? For the Gnostics, the answer was simple. He didn't. The world as we know it was crafted by a false god, a lesser being who craved power and worship. They saw the harsh, punishing figure of the Old Testament, demanding sacrifices, ordering
Fertility and cosmic cycles. The serpent's ability to shed its skin tied it to regeneration, rebirth, and internal cycles, mirroring the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. Esoterically, it represents the vital current that animates the universe.
Where the same word can mean two things. According to Wikipedia, the word snakeskin may either refer to shed skin of a snake after molting, or to a type of leather that is made from the hide of a snake.
in Genesis is wrong. That the story you think you know, the one drilled into your head in Sunday school or Bible study, is missing the bigger picture. The word used for serpent in the original Hebrew is nas. Now, here's where things get interesting. Sure, it's often translated as a snake horse serpent, but did you know that nas isn't just about a slithering reptile? The word has layered meanings. It's not just a noun, it's also connected to verbs like to whisper or to enchant, often linked with divination or gaining hidden knowledge. The very word used to describe the serpent in Genesis also implies a seeker or bringer of esoteric knowledge. And if you're already thinking, wait, that sounds deeper than just a snake, you're absolutely right. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, snakes were more than creepy animals slithering around. They were symbols, powerful ones. In Mesopotamian mythology, for example, we find references to the god Enki, often symbolized with serpentine imagery, who was a giver of wisdom and knowledge. In Egypt, snakes weren't just dangerous creatures, they were sacred. The uraeus, that famous cobra on Pharaoh's crown, symbolized divine authority and protection. And in Canaanite traditions, serpents were associated with healing and transformation. Does this sound like an evil?
This benevolent, even divine view of the serpent is crucial to understanding its role in many ancient mysteries and magical systems. We've just uncoiled the complex paradoxical symbolism of the serpent, exploring its ancient wisdom, its healing powers, and its deep connections to spiritual awakening and inner transformation. But we've also confronted its darker side, seeing it as a force of temptation, illusion, and even an adversarial power influencing figures like the Antichrist, and appearing in challenging esoteric interpretations of the Old Testament God. It's clear that the serpent is far more than just a creature. It's a profound symbol reflecting humanity's understanding of both creation and corruption. In our next video, the journey continues as we turn our gaze to the magnificent and equally enigmatic dragon. We'll delve into its roles as a cosmic force, a benevolent guardian, and a terrifying symbol of chaos and ultimate opposition. You won't want to miss it. Make sure you subscribe and have notifications turned on so you're ready when our exploration of the dragon is unleashed. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time on The Unraveling. Thank you.